So.
And then when I mute on this, not showing.
Yes.
that
Yes.
it's listed. Okay.
It's listed as 21st.
Do we not have this meeting in the agenda center or?
It is.
Well, this one was a unique one since we changed the time, so this one has a different look and feel to it. This is called the one-time event budget advisory board.
Yeah,
Because all the others were set up at 10 to noon, so this one's a unique one.
So if you go into the,
I see it now. Yeah.
So now I click start and then just mute it. Well, I mean,
So
really-
you don't need to worry about YouTube now, you're live. So just open up your Zoom again
okay.
and then mute it there.
All right, it's 8:30 a.m. today on September 18th, 2024. And I will call to order this meeting of the Grand County Budget Advisory Board. Those present from the board virtually on Zoom are Treasurer Kaufman, Jail Commander Hackwell, and those members of the board here in person are Vowles, Wojtek, Winfield, Throgmorton, and Walker. First off on the agenda, we have action items. Right now, we do not have minutes, those draft minutes ready and posted, so I would entertain a motion to postpone the action item to approve budget advisory board minutes, and we'll approve 2 sets of minutes next meeting.
So made.
Motion by Winfield, do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Vowles. All right, motion to postpone. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. JB, can you make sure to share with me draft minutes, just once you have them all set up and I can review them and make sure they're posted?
Yep.
Thank you. We'll move right ahead here to our agenda, and I'll just pass it right on to our presentations and discussions, and I'll pass it on here to our budget officer, Stephen Vowles. Thank you all. Thank you, Stephen.
All right, thank you. All right, before we start with the department level budget reviews, I just want to describe the process and what our objective is for today. So up on the screen is kind of our life cycle for the budget. You know, we started with pre-budget estimates, and starting September 1 for 2 months, we're going to go through budget reviews in these budget advisory board meetings to ultimately come up with a tentative budget. And an outcome from this budget advisory board will be a recommendation of that tentative budget. So today, we're not approving or denying anything. We're just looking at the proposed budgets by departments. We've got 6 departments, and we'll go around there. And our job today is really just to flag any items for consideration, any complexities, issues, challenges, or unique characteristics of a particular budget to help us balance and achieve a recommendation, you know, by before 11/1. And a couple things to note, that we include salary information in these proposed budgets today, but we do not include any COLA or cost of living adjustments. So that's just a note that will be approved separately. And then if it is approved, then that will be added to each department budget. So we're going to describe mostly expenditures. Now, I know Maddie with the trails, we did include some revenue items in there for reference, but when we're going to do you last, but we'll come back to that. But all budgets here are really just looking at expenditures for the 2025, and the guidance was, show us what you believe you need to run the business of your department in 2025. So with that, we're going to start with the library, but before we start with Carrie, any other just questions about our objective today? And I will say we have a hard stop at 9:45 because there's another meeting here afterwards, so I'll kind of be a little, or I'll try to facilitate the timing of this. All right, so let's go with and I'm gonna open up your budget, Barry. Okay, let's go through, and Carrie, I know you've been working on this and you got a lot of information here. You know, salaries and benefits, I'll just speak to that since, but
Let me just
Yeah.
start with some very basic information, mostly for AJ and Shan, who probably or may not know. So the library fund is outside of the general fund. So when we talk about our expenditures, we have revenue line items that per state code, property tax collected for the library can only be spent on the library. So this is, it's, of course, the commission has final say on the budget, but this is outside of the general fund. So that's kind of important to keep in mind, especially when we start talking about capital projects, because we also have a separate library capital projects account. And recognizing that there's a lot going on and you've got a hard stop time. In a nutshell, there is no increase asked from the 2023 budget to the 2024 budget to the 2025 budget, with the exception of the salaries that's already been mentioned, and the benefits that Laura in HR put in there. I will say though, from the information that she sent me on that spreadsheet, my salary line item does include a projected, I think, 2.5 or 2.7% COLA. She shared an entire spreadsheet that had everything by employee. And then I'm pretty positive there was a column there so I don't anticipate that going up, but.
Well,
I could be
I'll
wrong.
check with you on that, we did do a with COLA and a without COLA. But anyway, let's
I think the numbers I
check.
was given was within expected, like I said, I can't remember if it was 2.5 or 2.7.
Okay,
Cause I had done it at 2% and she said she thought it would be 2.5, 2.7.
okay, I'll check with you and Laura on that, but the salaries is really not something we're reviewing today, that is just a fact of employees kind of, a
Right.
salary rate, going forward.
Right,
So-
but it is COLA and then it's paid for performance.
Yes, pay for performance is included, all eligible employees are included in that. All right, well, let's go down here and you can see the most, just as a context, and then I'm gonna give it over to you. Most of your budget looks pretty much the same. In fact, let me scroll right down to the bottom of this. We do a calculation in here that says year over year, you're at 103%. We can already tell a lot of that probably comes from just the salary and benefits. But with that, let me just go to you, Carrie, and you can describe anything we don't have to go over a single line item, but maybe anything that you need.
We
or-
really prefer not to unless there's specific questions, because like I said, there's no change from the 2024 budget to the 2025, with the exception of the salaries and benefits. I do want to address that percentage number that you talked about, though. If you scroll down to the bottom of that where you've indicated the percentage increase, that's a little bit erroneous because this is something that you and I discussed, but I just want the Budget Advisory Board aware of this. That percentage increase includes money that's being put into the fund balance. Like, we are expected to underspend this year because intentionally, this is to get money into the capital projects account. So it artificially, in my opinion, artificially inflates the library's operations budget, because this money is used as a pass-through through the 72 to get in. As it is used as a pass-through through the operations account to get into the capital projects account. So,
Well, let's talk about that. It's this number right here that I'm showing, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
This money
that's
is
what's
being
budgeted
added.
for 2025.
So if I could butt in, like, with these budgets that have their own associated funds and fund balances, and there's that line for contribution to fund balance. I think that line can kind of be omitted from the analysis about the percentage budget request change
There we go.
in the future for other.
I do think it should, because when I'm talking to the public, they look at they look at what you spent for the library in one year, what you spent for the library in the other year. And when we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars coming up in capital projects over the next couple of years, that's gonna show a massive operations increase that isn't really operations. It's these capital projects because the building's 20 years old.
And we'll make sure a corrected document goes up on the.
Well, should I just remove this right now and update the document on the
It's-
website?
Yeah, we'll get it done after this
Okay.
meeting, for sure.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna remove that just to.
It is something that is of concern to me, but when it comes down to it, in the long run, it really doesn't matter because library money stays within library funds.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't affect other budgets.
Okay,
So I'm a little confused because there's a line just above there that says money's budgeted to transfer future capital projects, and that's just zero for all years.
That is an excellent question that I have also had, because as I said yesterday at my commission report, like, I don't really understand the accounting of how we get this money into the 73 account to start expending for these capital projects.
Okay, but you're saying this year, you're anticipating contributing 41,000 to those, is that? Or is that
So,
just,
so that line item, that 920 is contribution to the fund balance. I would like to have money from the fund balance moved into the 73 account, which is the capital projects account. There's also a couple of other line items above that. The 720, 730, and 740, those are also related to capital expenditures. So for this budget year that we're currently in, 2024, I do not anticipate that the repairs that we've done primarily on the HVAC systems is going to go over that 15,000. So there'll be some more money in those line items that are extra unspent that can also be moved either into capital projects or into the fund balance to then be moved into capital projects. I don't know how the accounting on this works, the process, I mean.
Kevin, and I would say to respond to that, right now, there's kind of an apples and oranges situation in regards to contribution of the fund balance of Fund 72 and the actual transferring of that balance to 73 of capital projects. And basically, it's kind of same. They're two, as Carrie suggested, they're two fund balances that are all part of the library, and we just haven't made that transfer to 73 for the capital project situation, and perhaps we should include that in this budget. Does that kind of make sense?
I think so,
Okay.
but it sounds like Carrie was suggesting, and I also think it's a good idea to, in the future, or even maybe this year, the budget, it was easy to see at a glance in the budget, how much is operational expenses and how much is being saved up for capital projects. I mean, that's just a useful number to know, and right now it seems like it's hidden.
Yeah, and I will admit my ignorance in this. I have not had to use the capital projects account, the 73 account over the last 17 years because the newer building, we didn't have these problems.
well, I'll take an action to help you and myself be more comfortable about this process of funding your capital. And see what kind of adjustments we want to make.
And I guess I also recognize the distinction between just a generic fund balance and a capital. I mean, that's kind of an artificial distinction because, money can easily be transferred back and forth, so it's.
Okay, well, given that, let me just scroll through this and see if anybody has any particular questions. I'm not gonna stop at any one spot, but.
I've tried to provide an explanation of each individual line item and what it is attributed to as part of the operations budget, so.
I had a question about the salaries. It looks to me like the salary number is going up by about 9%. Which is, bigger than the COLA. Are just more people working more hours, or is it step increases, or?
Yeah, so yes, it's
Step.
pay for performance is also included in there, which is the step increases. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Any new employees, positions this year?
No.
No, okay. And I'm also taking an action, as we've already mentioned, to double check this, your salary number for inclusion of COLA or not. Okay. Adjust that if it's. Yeah, I do want to, I have one question here as well, and I did update actuals yesterday in here. So it looks like we are budgeting year over year, but we're only about 35,000 year to date on utilities. But I guess the question being, since you, and then maybe it's a question for you, and I apologize for my ignorance on this, but in this count, if you didn't spend all utilities budget this year, what does that roll into, and would that provide some budget relief for next year?
No.
No, okay.
No, with the caveat that any line item that's underspent increases the amount that goes into the fund balance.
Right, because you are, that's a special fund, you know.
Correct, because
Yeah.
per state code, all library monies collected.
Yep.
Is used for
Stays
the
in
library. Yeah, it cannot be
Okay.
transferred to any
All right,
other.
so it just helps with your bump, or your fund balance, which ultimately may help with your capital projects. And last night in the commission meeting, you described a whole laundry list of
Yes,
projects.
yes, it's been very intentional. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to get money into that capital projects account because we know these expenditures are coming.
Is that why your budget for your utilities went up so drastically? I mean, we're trying to pass through there, or, I mean, from 34 to 60,000.
34 is actual to date, just as a reference.
Oh, that's the
So it's
actual
budgeted
to date. I'm
60
sorry.
last year, but
Okay.
we've spent about 35
Yeah.
so far.
Okay, and then the line above it, that you have the teen center in your building maintenance and grounds work seems a little odd to me. Why isn't that its own line item for?
I'd love to have a line item that's rent. I don't know how to create a line item.
Yeah.
I don't even have access to Excel, so.
No, and I'm not, it's a question for everybody when I ask those questions. It's not directed at you, you know, Gabe and Steve probably. It just doesn't seem like that's part of grounds and upkeep.
Yeah, I will just say 2 years ago, that's what we decided to do as part of the budget process. We just threw it in
Because
there.
it doesn't break out what you are paying in rent somewhere that for that teen center. I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
Have that number broke out, so.
All right, let me scroll down here and you all see if it raises any other flags or questions.
That's good.
All right.
We got an hour.
Any questions for Carrie?
That's all I had.
Okay, I'll follow up on those two things with you, Carrie. And we're good for today. Thank you.
All right,
for joining.
wonderful. If anything comes up, feel free to reach out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Gina.
all right.
Sorry, I hijacked. the show. Can hijack it every time.
All right. Now, Gina, let's go
Hey.
with you. Okay. Coming down, just looking at the magic formula, 100% last year's budget. You know, again, we can kind of jump over the salary and benefits as they're just calculated based on current cost. So let's just go with you. And I don't think everything here actually, just as a commentary, so there's only one that actually increased right here, everything else is pretty much the same. Well, that one and this one increased, but Gina, let me go ahead and just describe any context before we ask questions.
Well, I'm gonna make getting all my records digitized is one of my main goals. So I'm in the process of getting quotes to get remaining records digitized. US Imaging is saying that there are ARPA funds, which I know nothing about. So I need to find out about ARPA funds, if that's available and how I get into those, because that would be part of that digitizing and getting everything available online is apparently priority for the ARPA funds, from what I'm told.
Yeah.
I do not know. I'm gonna have to tap into somebody else for that one.
So has that been budgeted, this project, the digital transition?
I'm
project?
trying to get it on there.
Oh,
I've gotta
okay.
get, it's quite a chore to get all the records, count all the records that need digitized at this point, but I'm working on it. Hopefully I'll have it done. Hopefully by the end of the week, and maybe she can get me a quote within a week or so. She also is able, if we can't tap into ARPA funds, she's also able to do this in stages. which I'd rather not, but I mean, if we have to, we have to do it in stages. I'm not,
So would that be a cap, just an additional capital or request, budget request?
I have no
That
idea.
sounds
I don't know.
expensive. I don't know, digitizing all those, I've seen all those books you got back there.
Yeah, it's
Imagine
not a simple thing to do. I tried to do this last year, but it didn't work. But the US Imaging that I've been talking to, they come in and do on-site scanning, so we don't have to send any records out. They come in, they have a 24-hour work crew, 2 shifts, 12-hour shifts, scan everything until they're done. It's 3 to 7 days worth of scanning, depending on, what we end up with. So that's part of stage 1, and then they give us, our images back with a viewing program until they get done editing and converting and enhancing. I mean, they do the black and white, they enhance everything, they do all the microfilm. So, I mean, if it's gonna be a huge expense, we can spread it over the course of 2 years. But if ARPA can come in, then
It'd be professional services over. Capital projects, yeah.
so I don't know
Yeah.
where it goes. I have no idea where it would go.
So is there the possibility that that will be added to this budget before we reach the end of the year? So that's something we have to flag.
Yes,
For sure.
yes, yeah,
Do you
that's
have
that.
an idea? How much is it costing on? Maybe you can share-
I did see Paiutes invoice. They're a lot smaller than we are, and it was $17,000. So that's for scanning. That's not for the whole process. So I'd say Paiute's quite a bit smaller, but I don't know. I'd say 25, maybe. I don't really know. I'm trying to, I'll get it done because I want to have that vote in for this budget.
Okay.
So,
So is there someone at the county who's conversant in grants who could help figure out whether there is this external ARPA funding?
I'm not aware. Is there someone conversant in grants?
Someone,
Well, I mean, Jenny Beth here is our grants coordinator and she'd be happy to assist in any way. But as far as like someone with their finger on the pulse, each department kind of manages the availability of grants.
I was getting the impression this isn't something you've done before.
No.
so- But it's probably
Not at all.
similar to things other people in the county have done before, so. Provide some assistance.
Well, there's definitely a note on
Yes.
the digital imaging project and the potential of a 25K addition here that we'll note. And
yeah,
I just wonder, I guess, ask the board the question, if this is something you really want to do we include it here or to make it a one-off request? If and when it happens?
I think a little bit of both. I think it would end up in professional services in this budget, but ultimately it's gonna have to be really pulled out. And there will be a list presented to the commission during commission budget workshops where a lot of these bigger requests will be kind of isolated and singled out for individual consideration. So it's kind of,
Okay.
But you're saying we should add a line, add the figure to the spreadsheet soon? Just a
Yeah,
wild guess.
I don't know if I would, yeah, I guess we could put a wild, I guess it's same as long as we don't leave a wild guess in there,
Well, definitely take.
Because I
this
do
in-
think it's a useful part. I mean, if I were, if this were before the commission, I would vote for, yes, we should spend the money to digitize.
yes, please. I want it done.
The line you're on, the Xerox contract expires October 2014. Is that right?
Yes, or no, did I say no?
Did you
No,
mean to say?
that's 24.
Or-
No, we're a little closer than.
It's a little out.
And so
It's
just,
way outdated. We need to update.
just to be clear, I'm interpreting that as the new contract saw an increase from what had previously been, is that why? there's
With the
an increase?
Xerox? Is that what you're talking about?
Right, is that why it went from 4 to 67?
So the 67 is the current quote. I got that one in the email the other day. So that is the current.
Thank you.
That is, yeah. And this is just a used one. The new ones are 14,000. with a 10-year contract. And the $6,700 one is a used one with the base, pretty close to the same prices for the copies in the black and white, for the color in the black and white. So I figured 67 would be better than 14,000. So yeah, that is current.
Your notes field, you can probably update that to 2024.
Yes, yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Didn't I just do that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did. All right, so I wanted to just ask the question,
Yeah.
should we or should we not include a budget estimate under the professional services line for some estimate for the digital transformation? I'm thinking yes, but you were kind of saying like maybe it's a one-off budget commission request outside of this? I mean, those are the two options.
I would say that there's a commissioner here that's interested in including it and then considering it still, rather than the other way around. And so I'm okay with doing that.
I think to comply with the purchasing policy though, it would need to go. You have to get at least 3 quotes.
I
Under
do have to
50.
get 3 quotes.
And we would have to have an independent contractor agreement, so
Yeah.
that's.
If it's under 50, so
So 3 quotes and what? A contractor agreement?
You need to get 3 informal quotes, if it's under 50,000, if it's over 50,000, it needs to go out to bid,
And that's if it's approved. So
yes.
let's get a quote first. And see if the commission
Okay.
approves it.
So I still need 3 quotes even to do that, or just come in with 1 to get it approved and then go forward with the
Just-
2 other quotes?
I think just one quote.
Just the one,
okay.
okay, all right,
Yeah, or
all
just,
right.
I mean, if you're confident that that quote will encapsulate or, I mean, yeah, you want to shop around and we want to budget for the best quote, so. I
Well,
guess that-
last year was a $250,000 quote. And that was all of my records going out of the office at once for an unknown amount of time.
And what is it for doing it in the office estimate?
Paiute was 17,000, almost 18. I'm gonna say 25, because we got more records than they do.
And this is a one-time,
This for the scanning, so they do it in stages. So the first stage would be the scanning, and then they would give us our images and a viewing program until they got done with the rest of it, which would be 9 months to a year. And then, but that's not, the 25,000 is not the whole entire thing. That's just part of the scan, the first stage.
really sounds like we need to get this into a estimate, so we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
Yep.
have a document. we
I'm-
can look at, right?
You can come in and help me count records. I'm trying hard to get the records counted that need to be digitized. There's a lot to go through. And all of the microfilm, there's a lot to go through to try to get a good solid count on what needs digitized.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Gina, I know Paiute's smaller than us population wise. I think
Yep.
they have about twice as many parcels as we do. Are you sure they have
Oh.
actually fewer records than us?
No, I do not have a clue. Nope, I just know that Matt Wilbur is who I was talking to, and he was saying that Paiute's much smaller than Grand. And that's, I seen his invoice. It was 17,000, a little over 17,000. So I don't know what his actual count is on parcels.
And
That's a
and
good-
I'm not sure that the number of parcels, directly correlates to the number of records you've got, because it may,
Yeah.
the amount of turnover and sales might also affect that, I would imagine.
Right, yeah,
Uh,
yes.
But yeah, I just looked it up
That's
and
nice.
they've got
Yeah.
about 12,000 parcels. We've got about 7,000.
So there you go. Thank
All
you. Thank you, Chris.
Well, I suggest to keep things moving along.
Oh,
that we
absolutely.
make a note of this as a key
Oh, I'm
takeaway to,
This is what
to
I've been
get an
doing.
estimate and determine how we want to address this budget item.
And then the ARPA funds, I'll get with JB over there and see if we
Okay.
can figure that out. Cause
All right.
that would cover, I think if they're still available, I'm thinking it covers everything.
Well, that would be.
Oh, that would be, yeah, that would be good.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap up with Gina. Any other final questions for Gina in the recorder's office? Okay, let's go with Yordi in the Grant Center.
Okay, Dave asked me to do a quick overview tonight. Does everybody know who I am? Okay, my name is Loretta, so that was Wendy, but most people in Moab call me by a childhood name of Elaine. And I was asked to give a quick overview of the center and its funding. The Grand Center has two budgets with the county, one for the senior center and another for the community center. We have a third budget with Southeastern Utah's Area Agency on Aging, or the AAA. The AAA runs our nutrition program. The nutrition program is funded by state and federal funds. They also utilize project income, which is donation money from the seniors on our lunch program. Congregate and home delivered meals are suggested donation of $2.50. This income is kept separate and its use is closely regulated by the Older Americans Act. The county also contributes money to the nutrition program. Line item 10-4311-920 is contributions to other agencies. This money is given to the SULOG, Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments, and it basically pays for our cooks. And I have added a raise into the line item this year for cooks to get a raise. So, and we have two cooks. We also have a contract with the AAA for state funding for the long-term care ombudsman for Grand County, also for SHIP, which is a senior health insurance program. We do Medicare counseling and help beneficiaries sign up for Medicare and Medicare Part D. Part D is the Medicare's drug plan. We can also go over other plans for Medicare, but we cannot sell these. They have to go through an insurance agency. The AAA also gives us money from the state for socialization and recreation. This is part of the nutrition program that we run. Socialization has been running about $22,000 a year. It gets billed in twice a year. But it's slightly lower this year, but it might be about that same because Shauna with the SULOG said that they would, there was more money. We have added activities and events to our schedule. We are trying to reach out to more seniors. COVID showed us that the importance of socialization as many of our aging population were isolated. We are trying to add more activities and evidence-based classes. Evidence-based classes also receive money from the Older Americans Act and from the AAA. This money is utilized for training and materials needed. We are hoping to bring our part-time driver to a full-time status so we can get them trained and they can help facilitate some of the classes and activity. This is basically how monies for the senior center are brought in and utilized. The senior center has 4 employees besides the cooks. They include me, the kitchen manager, the bus driver, and home delivery driver. And both the bus driver and home delivery are part-time. The community center has 3 full-time employees, the facility coordinator and 2 maintenance workers. The community center has rooms that we rent out for weddings, birthday parties, memorial ceremonies, and other communities' needs. We work with other community entities like the Multicultural Center, the hospital, Utah State University, and the health department to help meet the needs not only of our seniors, but as a community as a whole. We have several support groups, i.e. grief support, caregiver, and a new dementia support group that are held there. The community center's rooms are available for use by government agencies for no charge. That includes federal, state, city, and county. Our building is close to 20 years old and we just try and keep up with the wear and tear. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Yordi. Let's go through this and see what kind of questions we have. I have one right off the top of my head here, and the number for salaries that came from Laura.
Mhm.
Do you know if you've negotiated with Laura already to include this part-time to full-time
Yes.
transition? Okay, so that does, because your note does.
It's not a
apply
big
there.
deal. It's just something we're considering.
Yeah, all right. So this salary increase includes this recommend or
Yes.
desire to move a position to full-time. Worth noting, and I just noted here.
Any breakout sheets associated with this budget, like detail on any of these lines, further detail?
I
I'm just asking if there is like, even if.
have
you show
not
that.
given him any.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I just appreciate like even on like the senior trip, like the travel, the 2,700, like. If there's a way that you can demonstrate how you derive that number, that's kind of the expectation that
Okay.
we just sort of ask for that. So if you have a chance to do that, but yeah,
Sorry,
Really?
I'm out of town
It's okay.
in and out, so.
that's okay. Yeah.
Yes, we have, and that's also very tentative. Because we plan on going to, we're on a bus tour to Albuquerque and Santa Fe. But the last bus tour we took was to South Dakota. And we signed up enough seniors that two of our employees were paid for it. So we didn't have to utilize any of the travel money. But this is just in case we don't get, I don't know, 32 people signed up. And I will send you a,
Just something that we can update this document, because these can be kind of,
okay,
these are for the public record and just the more detail that we can have out there and available, that's what we're aiming for.
I'll continue to work with you on this.
pardon?
I'll continue to work with with you on this. I know, you've been out for a little bit, but this one is not as, detailed as some of the others.
And I
Okay.
do have estimates for some of the things I've requested. I just didn't send them.
To talk about this one, the contribution to other agencies, this one as well, Gabe, is this one going out to, oh, and there, and actually I've split this up. The top one is 4311, which is what, the senior center, and then,
Contributions is,
yeah, 4311 and 4563. So you have two general funds here, because you mentioned the other two funds.
yes, but I didn't know I contributed to the other agencies out of the community center.
That's a line item that's filled in every year.
It's just a bound.
I didn't come prepared to explain that line. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I can't off the top of my head, but it has something to do with the funding mechanism with the Association of Governments, I believe. Because some of that money that we collect has to be restricted and therefore it has to be transferred out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the money in the 27 accounts.
I don't know if it's that seems like a high number for that particular category, but
Oh, good.
I'm not prepared right now to explain it.
We'll look at it. Take a note.
Talking the contribution on that bottom line, that's just includes the cook's wages and a raise for the cooks.
Okay, so yeah, so that's our contribution to pay for whatever portion of the cook's wages and salaries that we share with the Association of Local Governments. Thank you. Is that a 50-50 split? Sorry if you already said that.
I have a copy of their budget that I can give you.
If you
It
don't
isn't
know,
a-
I was just.
It is not a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Their budget total is 163,000.
They pay 100%.
Good.
For the state and the federal come in. So, yeah. They, this. I just think we should have skin in the game, she keeps telling me.
Right.
But I think a lot of it is that we pay our cooks at a higher rate than they do in Price or in Emory County. So that's why we contribute more to.
Okay.
I believe we had a hiring issue a few years ago, where we couldn't get anybody, so the county contributed more because SUALG could only do so many funds, and then the county stepped up and made up the difference so that we could.
Yeah. And so that raised it
It's
up.
also.
Yeah.
Whereas.
And also, yeah, that's true. And I told they're going to come and interview or evaluate our cooks this week, next week. And I said they would expect a raise, and she said the only way they would get a raise is if we worked it into our budget. Even though it says on their policy and procedure book that they get one.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna scroll through the budget worksheet. This top section was the senior citizens part of the budget, and the second part is the Grand Center. And you already maybe described the core difference here. I mean, obviously the top is probably the lunches and other seniors
Yes,
citizen
this-
activities, and the bottom is.
The bottom's just a community center. It just, we have a facility coordinator that rents out the building, and that pays for the maintenance on the building. The nutrition program and the OAA, the Older Americans Act, just does not pay for anything for the building, like the swamp coolers, HVAC and things like that that are attached to the building or come through the community center.
So the salary jumps up for our bus driver going to full-time and the benefits go up just a bit because of that too.
Yeah,
Another question, Gabe, I'm looking at us internally here. For example, on the building and grounds maintenance, we budgeted 10,000 last year, we're only less than half this year. Available funds here go back to the general fund in this case, the end of the year. I'm looking at for actual performance this year to maybe compare what next year needs to look like.
Yeah, I mean, available funds in this case go back to the general fund.
Yeah.
That's not typically that's 10,000 was the amount earmarked. And so whatever ends up getting spent ends up getting spent, and then we want to budget accurately for how much we know will be spent. But it's not as though we took 10,000 out and put it in an account for
Right.
this purpose, and then whatever was left brought it back in. I mean, that's.
So with that description, and that's why I thought it would be, and this is a general rule for all budgeting. You know, we were trying to approve this or not approve, review this budget 9 months into it. And when we're showing we're only spending half of what we budgeted last year, but we still plan to spend that same amount next year. If we're showing a performance of only a spend of 50 to 70% year over year, then, you know, it could lower that budget a little bit just to allow for other dollars. But this is, I'm making a note here, not necessarily.
well, I think that the HVAC unit that they put, the swamp cooler that they put over the kitchen, I don't know that it was paid within the last month, if I understand right. So
that cost is still to show up.
was 8,000.
Well, and that's what I'm suggesting, is we take another look for some of these budgets closer to the end of the cycle, right before 11/1, to see what our actual spend was, and to see if we need potentially have some adjustments to our future budget.
My experience from past years is that that's a little bit tricky one for the reason that you already,
Yeah.
sometimes these things are spent very unevenly throughout a year. It's not a monthly expense. And so
Yeah.
how much you spend 6 months in doesn't really tell you much.
Yeah.
And then I guess there's also a lag in between funds getting written and showing up in the accounts.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess the downside is if we don't spend it, it just goes back in the general fund, so it's not like.
but I agree with you. We should try to make the best estimate we
Just a
can.
tighter forecast for next year.
Yeah, that particular line has seen saw an underspend in 23. Looks like it might be coming under in 24, so I think it is a good eye in terms of maybe seeing it go down to 8,000 or something of that nature, but just a suggestion, and then something like 8,000 for HVAC repair, that would go in capital equipment. So that wouldn't be part of that sort of operations maintenance line, just to say.
It comes under what? Capital equipment?
Yeah, and if we need to recode that, if that's how it came in, but
Okay.
it's typically an expense like that would be put into a capital line, a one-time sort of, durable like that.
Okay,
So do we just deal with capital expenses like we're talking the HVAC right here when they come up as needed, or do we try and build into that building some future needs? Sean was just in here with all of the issues that we have building to building.
The larger expenses that we see coming up, or is that just not the way we've been doing things that way? Yeah, I mean, I can't drive my car and not plan on the fact that it's gonna have to maintenance.
Building is just like all the others, it's aging. I mean, we just heard library horror story yesterday also, so why are we not setting money aside on a yearly basis for these needs rather than dealing in an emergency situation or
Yeah.
amending the budget to cover those? And I'm just throwing that out there that
I thought in past years, it was typical to see in these department budgets a line for an anticipated capital expense.
yeah, I don't know, so I'm asking because.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but, you know, yeah, I agree, it's a reasonable question, but I think that's not the way most departments do it.
Yeah, I mean, that point definitely came to mind yesterday when Carrie was presenting and explaining how she had planned over years to have enough money to do a really big renovation, and I thought, wow, we really need to have that same approach across every facility.
Building by building, it shouldn't
Absolutely.
just be an emergency or amended budget for the maintenance department if we have these emergencies. And then I have a question on the vehicle lease there. Is that the bus or what is that?
That is the best.
The bus, okay, thank you.
A quick check on those online. Can you still see and hear us? Shan or Chris?
I can.
Okay, we had a little issue here. Okay, all right.
It
Well, I
cut out
wanted-
briefly.
Oh, okay, yeah, somebody tripped over a cord or something like that. All right, I wanted to follow up on your question because I like this as well. And I've given the direction for HVAC, for an example. If you knew you had an HVAC project this year, we need to see it in the budget. But if you're worried the HVAC can go out this year, next year, or the following year, then let's not budget for that now. But specifically for you, do we believe the HVAC is needed next year, or it's just a worry at this point?
It's a worry.
Okay.
We've replaced all but 3 of our HVAC units. And, you know, the last 3 are,
Yes.
Sorry.
Right, but back to my question, we're talking about a county asset here that we want to protect into the future. So why are we not building into that some sort of fund for
Yeah.
future expenses on that building rather than realizing them in an emergency situation?
And I agree. In fact, I think I want to talk to Sean and you all, maybe we won't answer it right today, but I agree, we need to start, if HVAC's coming up in every department, we should be saving a little bit every year just to.
Towards
for that.
each building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know, just I can speak specifically, I mean, different type of project, but I know, for paved path maintenance, that there was 100,000 being put into that every year to accumulate for a 5-year maintenance cycle.
Yeah.
That I think actually we've determined this year is maybe over budgeted and we're changing it, but I know that that has been a conversation in the past of like, can you put in that 100,000 every year, knowing there's a 5-year cycle you're planning for, but you're not actually planning those expenditures for the next year. So there's like a lot of conflicting views on that in the past.
Yeah.
so my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but, you know, we have some kind of narrowly targeted capital funds like the one that was just mentioned. But then we also just have a general capital projects fund that's for the county, you know, some of it might go to buildings, but some of it might go to HVAC units. So I think the county as a whole is putting money away every year for capital projects. Some of it gets earmarked narrowly, like for the paths, and some of it's just in the big general fund. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying that maybe we should do better than that, but I think that's what we can.
yeah, and it seems like, I think of it like IT keeps a schedule across all departments when everyone's gonna need their computer replaced. And it almost seems like we need a 5 to 10 year schedule across all county facilities with cost estimates that keep updated. So we have an idea, okay, in 25, 26, 27, what might we be expecting to replace capital needs or facility needs, I should say.
And it should also give us be able to follow the fact that building number 4, whichever one it is, we just spent a couple $100,000 on that building, and we might need to look at the fact it needs replaced or
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, if we don't have a schedule per building, I mean, just like this one, there's a life cycle, just like the library on the roof. And planning for that, rather than looking at it as just a 1 year emergency repair. Makes sense to me, but
Okay, well, given our time here, I want to kind of just try to summarize some things here.
sorry to slow it down.
No, it's fine. We do have a decision about the part-time to full-time bus driver. Let me ask a procedural question. Is that our decision or is that an HR personnel services decision?
There will be a specific budget workshop with the commission that will look at all new position and reclassification requests, and those will be looked at individually.
Okay, I know we have that agenda item. Okay, so that's a note that we're gonna take.
And I think last year, didn't we approve the full-time, but this didn't happen this year?
I didn't know that we approved it, but you could be right. But first we have to
I was just noting like
justify it.
budgeted salary. No,
Yes,
To the justification, and so part-time, they're working, like utilization's there, they're
Mhm.
swamped,
yes,
cool.
but we need to pick which, on my part, I need to pick where I can utilize them most. To justify me and you guys.
All right, so that's one note. The other note I find, I think that there's some room to sharpen our pencils right now, but I don't think I want to go there yet. The part of this process is to present all budgets and look how it all balances out across the board. You already, I think I may be coming back to you to see if we can sharpen our pencil a little bit. And the final comment is this HVAC savings discussion, but I think it's greater than just you. So a lot of
Mhm.
departments have this
Yes,
issue of like, how are we gonna do HVAC? We may need to include a little annual savings towards that for this eventuality. Any other questions? And when we can add some more detail, that's the other thing. You already, I'll work with you just to get some detail, just, 'cause we're gonna use this as a working document through the year as well,
Okay.
so. Good first draft here, we'll continue to work on this.
And just a suggestion now, I think because of time constraints, I would suggest prioritizing commission administration and treasurer's office,
Yep.
just so we're not racing through Maddie's budget. Sorry, Maddie, is that okay?
Yeah. When's the next one that I would be on?
That would be something you'd work with Stephen on.
Okay.
Yeah, we have another meeting.
so I'm through.
Yes, you are through. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jordan.
Well, okay. No, go ahead. I was just saying that if we might have some time, but we have to be out here at 9:45 and you have a pretty good,
Oh, today.
so I'll reschedule
Okay,
you,
sounds
Maddie.
good. Maybe we can
Thank you.
schedule alongside economic development. Because we have shared budget items.
Okay. All right, good idea. Thank you. All right, I pulled up commission, so Quinn.
Yeah.
And actually, let me refresh this because you might even be some updates.
All right, I've been working on this.
Yeah.
It's fairly static. Special department supplies, we went down a little bit on. Let's
Oh,
see,
you have two sections. here
Yeah, I
as
have two
well.
sections.
Commission.
commission and commission administration.
Yeah.
So in the upper section of commission, I wanna note that in line 15. For office supplies and expenses, that's a miscode in the 2024. So that was a zero budget item. I think I'm the one that miscoded that, so that just needs to get a journal entry to put that in the right account. Or amend that amount from 0 to 474, whichever you and Gabe wanna do, but that wasn't miscode. No, we should have coded that to a zero budget account. Professional services, we had 9,500 for last year. I do think the max on the contract for the internal audit is 10,000, and I don't think we got billed that amount, which is fine, but I do think we should budget for the amount of the contract. And then there was $500 for some other minor stuff. Anyway, my recommendation is to take that to the full 10,000 so that we budget for the full amount of that contract amount. So these others have gone down just based on historic performance. Special department supplies, we've only spent 40 out of $1,000, so I would recommend taking that down to 500. Inventory, we had a 4,700. I think we ended up buying these black chairs out of that last year. And we didn't do it in this year's budget, although I think it stayed in this year's budget. I think for this next year, we've discussed new chairs for the dais. That's up to you guys. I don't, you guys are the ones that sit on it.
Mine's fine.
Yeah, mine's fun too, and a lot of shares are not fun for me, so.
So then.
Yeah, I actually like mine.
Inventory, I would probably take that even from 2,500 down to 1,500, just in case we need other stuff in this room. I realize that's a just in case, but this room does need a lot of stuff, but. If we're not gonna buy chairs for the dais, then that could probably come down to 1,500. Which I can change right now.
Do that and I'll refresh it. It refreshed automatically. Okay.
Typically, we budgeted somewhere in the $50,000 to $70,000 range for discretionary, and that usually ends up getting mostly used. I did put a note in there for, because Gabe, I believe last year added a line for water studies specifically. So I just wanted to capture the fact that that water study that we discussed last night could get captured in the water study line instead of discretionary.
So it's not in this discretionary line?
A portion of the water study from this year will come from this discretionary, and the other portion will come from the water studies line.
And where is that line?
Where is the water studies line?
It's in the contribution to other agencies. Category within the general fund,
So is it on this sheet?
not on the
No.
sheet.
It's not, you say? And so back to I have a question on that. We discussed a little bit, or I brought up last night that there was a projected 2024 spend on some ranch project or something in the discretionary or whatever. Did that ever take place? That was, I think,
Not that I'm aware of. But I do think that, was that indiscretionary? Do you remember?
I thought that it was in discretionary.
Okay, so then that probably hasn't hit yet. I haven't seen any paperwork on that or a bill for it yet.
It was something about upgrading the Book Cliffs Ranch.
Yeah, I remember the discussion vaguely, but I haven't seen
I
it.
thought it was maybe helping them obtain some kind of conservation easement or something like that. But
Yeah,
I don't.
I'd be curious where that one went.
I think I think if it were to happen, it would still come out of this 2024 discretionary, was my
And I
understanding.
guess my question be more, if it's gonna happen, is it
For
something
sure.
that would come before us and we would vote on, or that would just, how does that?
Typically it does, the discretionary is just kind of for the commissioners to decide on, so.
Was this the project that was gonna use the rollback funds that were newly appropriated to the county by the legislature?
That doesn't sound familiar, Chris, but I could be wrong.
I think the only reason it wouldn't come before the commission though would be if it was on the pre-authorized list, and I don't think so.
I don't think it is.
Rated on the pre-authorized list.
Thank you. And then the other question I had was on the consulting, is that, Cody?
Cody, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's his yearly salary that we pay him?
Yeah.
I thought that was, I wanna say, I thought we were paying him 70, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was.
I think this is exactly,
Okay. Well, better than I thought.
so then I'm ready to go on to commission admin unless you guys want. Yeah, I reached out to all the commissioners, Bill responded and Mike and a couple others that said just leave their travel at the same, and so I have.
I'm done with the admin.
At admin. Subscriptions and memberships, I don't think those have hit yet for this year, so those are coming up, though they will hit that. Going up $400 in that. UAC attendance, I took that down 100, we just haven't spent that, so I don't see the point leaving it at 2,100, 2,000 is probably fine. Toner, I did at one point pull it up to 1,200, our printer uses some toner and we replace it 3 times a year, it's fairly expensive and it's gone up in price, but I think we'll still come in under 1,000, so fine with that. This other one, 68.95, I think that's all gonna come in. I put that at 7,000 just because of the round number instead of 68.95, but if you guys feel strongly about going back to 68.95, we can.
I prefer it to be 68.95.
All right,
Seriously.
yeah, I do think some of those are gonna And
You're gonna be hitting.
in 23, we had some of the other stuff in there. We moved those to a different account, but not. Special department supplies, bills are gonna come in for that. I think Mallory's laptop was due to be replaced, and I was kind of waiting to get a new administrator to replace that laptop, so I imagine that'll hit. If not late this year, then early next year.
And I didn't get a chance to ask another department about that, but have we gotten communication from IT to all departments about the schedules and feeling that people are still kind of guessing on that and it's not really.
I don't know, I
it's
reached
not
out
really where
specifically
we want to
for
be.
that laptop, so I didn't.
Okay, I know Matt's got a lot on his plate, but we want to make sure that we're sort of lined up there with the official.
And then our schooling expense with, that's gonna go down next year, so. But I would like to. I could probably cut that even more, but I'd like to get the county joining the ICMA membership. And then the tuition reimbursement for Alicia's college, and then UAC registration comes out of there. And I'd like to get us to be more involved in UAC. That was something that the prior administrator didn't believe in, but I tend to.
What is the ICMA?
International City County Managers Association. It's a national association involved. in
And,
city
and the
county.
schooling, what schooling is
That's a tuition reimbursement. We have a tuition reimbursement program at the county
for
for employees. that-
anywhere in the entirety? That's for anybody in the
Yeah.
county. It's not just strictly for admin.
No, absolutely.
Okay,
But we know, so
what's that?
we know it's gonna be used, so we'll put it in.
Okay,
What are you working towards, Alicia?
My bachelor's, my
And-
bachelor's in business administration.
Nice.
good. Thank you.
So we're 100.67%.
Yeah.
That's so clever.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
I had mine out there already, so.
No, ours is fairly static. The only change I'd like to see next year is I'd like to get Alicia to go to UAC at least once. Get a little bit more involved there. I think it's important to have those relationships with the other administrators and the state in general.
Without a doubt.
Sounds fun.
Okay, well, let's go to Chris next.
Thank you.
Chris, on the line, yeah, well, okay, I brought yours up.
Great.
Well,
My budget may be the smallest and simplest in the entire county. I don't believe I've got any change from the budget from last year on the bottom line number. There's a few line items where things are moving around a little bit. My biggest expenses are printing and mailing the property tax bills and paying for our tax accounting software. Those and with the property tax bills, we are seeing some inflation with costs and with postage. So I'm doing my best to anticipate those. The problem is that I don't even know what I'm going to pay this year. While we're in the budget process, I'm trying to anticipate 2 years worth of increases as we go forward. And I'm just kind of using averages of what's happened in the past to anticipate the future. So doing my best with that. And I don't believe we have any major inventory items for this year. I am planning to attend all 3 UAC conferences next year for the travel budget. And that's about it. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to entertain those.
Okay,
One thing I will note is that I am working on a analysis of salaries for elected officials, primarily the recorder, treasurer, clerk auditor, and assessor. The elected officials don't receive any kind of pay for performance or milestone increases. So every few years, we normally take a look at where those salaries are at. We do receive COLAs, but not the other pay increases. So we tend to start to fall behind the other county employees over time. But that's something that I can either present to directly to the commission or to the budget advisory board first when that's prepared.
Do you expect that to have that prepared this season, Chris, or?
Yeah,
Or
for
just-
this year.
Yeah, just be in touch with us and just maybe give me and Steven a heads up when you have that completed and we can decide where to put it in terms of, like whether it goes, I would think initially that it would go just right to the commission.
Yeah, I would assume it's going to be on that list of, along with other reclassifications and.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. So, we moved, Maddie in active transportation and trails to, be on 10. Let's see, 10-2, along with the economic development. So that it sounded like she preferred that anyway. So, we've fulfilled our agenda for today.
Thanks for Maddie for being accommodating there, but I do stand by that. I think it's good that we didn't decide to try to raise
Yeah.
that budget. We got some cushion now for the next meeting that'll come in here, so.
Okay.
All right, yeah, so it is 9:34 and I will close this meeting of the Budget Advisory Board. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.